have a louder round of applause?
Hello, everyone. I was just trying to make Sharon sit in the center because it is her day, but she wanted, as a dancer, to show her pallu from Orissa because she's a trained Odissi dancer. Now, what is very interesting for me to be here, you must be wondering what is a museum curator, what is an art historian, what is a person who works primarily with visual objects doing with a performing artist. There are many reasons for that, but the most important one being that I am absolutely engaged with Indian arts and aesthetics. And if you look at Indian aesthetics, there is a whole connection between the performing arts and visual arts. Our entire understanding of Indian art comes from the rasa theory, which is embedded in the Natya Shastra, a 4th century text on dramaturgy, which is equally invested in all the performing forms which Sharon Lowen has done, whether it is Manipuri, Odissi, Chau. Sharon is quite a master in 3 kinds of dance forms. And as a dancer, can music be far behind? So we are joined by the thread of rasa and bhav. And this is what the evening is dedicated to. The book is not launched yet, so we are not going to be really showing you the book cover. And in case there is too much delay of Mr. Amitabh Kant, then we will show you the cover. But I would like to begin by asking Sharon what, in her opinion, and why did she call the book Art Without Frontiers? So Sharon, over to you. Sharon came to India in 1973, is a complete Indophile, has lived here for 47 years and contributed greatly as a performer and as a very, very thoughtful documenter of the landscape of Indian art and music for the last 47 years.
Thank you, Alka. I have an American accent because I'm American. I am not an Indian origin American. My grandparents came from Eastern Europe. Lithuania, Belarus. In an earlier session, talking about culture, I think something that we all think about is the importance of being grounded in your own culture. I think my grounding allowed me, from childhood, to recognize when I was exposed to cultures from around the world, that when you learn about the other, you reflect and understand much more about yourself. In India, I was very fortunate that although I came as a Fulbrighter intending just to have a cultural entree, that I went deeper into the art and found the opportunities to grow as an informant, as an exponent of tradition, which is quite a miracle. In those days, foreigners were considered hippies, and people, of course, were flattered that foreigners would like to be students, but they never thought of them as artists. I created an annual festival that went on for 6 years that presented international exponents of dance and music. Along with this were seminars. And these seminars were basically on the idea of what is the transmission of tradition. And there were the reflections of those from outside who came to learn, as well as gurus and many exponents. And then recently, I've done a seminar. Welcome, thank you. I did a seminar last year, Looking Back to Move Forward, which took up the similar themes and even had presentations by some of the performing artists, one from France, Bridget, who had performed, Justin McCarthy. And basically, this book has an opportunity for anyone who's developing an interest in understanding and going deeper into what is the performing arts tradition in terms of aesthetics, spirituality, Margi, as well as Deshi traditions, and also for those, of course, who are Rasikas. And I think that because you not only have things said by gurus and scholars, but you have by people from the outside, it's an entree into through their perceptions to understanding your own.
So before we ask Amitabh to launch the book, could we just have a little dip into your book through the PPT that you've done so that the audience, the
Yes.
Rasikas who are here, both me
Please
and
start the
Amitabh
slideshow.
will enjoy the interior pages of the book,
This
which
is
we
my
haven't
guru,
seen. Yeah.
and he is an example of art without frontiers. This is performers from the festival last year of Looking Back to Move Forward. These are, and this is, of course, you can see Indrani and Manjari, Shanta Sharbjit Singh. These are people who presented at these seminars taking up these ideas of what is authenticity, how do you teach. One of my favorite stories in the book is Guru Sadhanam Balakrishnan, the great Kathakali guru, the person who created the Kathakali Center in Delhi, the only excellent center really outside of Kerala. And in his presentation, he starts by saying, well, we all know that foreigners can't really learn Kathakali because they don't believe in God, and you have to be in a gurukul. Then he goes on and says that as foreigners who only wanted to learn a little bit that they could use in theater or whatever, they would ask questions. And he didn't have the answers because he had just taken from his guru. It made him thoughtful. It made him discover. And many gurus have grown by the questions that foreigners are allowed to ask, which Indian disciples might not. And he said that some of them continued, persevered, and finally he said, when they're on the stage performing well in the costume, you can't tell the difference. And that doesn't mean they're going to achieve the level of a great master, but that it is an art without frontiers. And just as there are exponents of Western dance forms that come from all over the world, whether it's Asha Kurlawala or Japanese dancers, the fact is that the classical traditions in India are world-class and can be owned by anyone from anywhere. Jai Govind, who you just saw, has a school in Vancouver and has done innumerable first-class Arangetrams. So these are some of the people. Kamalini Dutt created the Doordarshan archives and saved many of the great performances for all times. So these are some of the people who had, these are the names of the chapters and what they wrote about. So basically you have from the 1990s through this past year, performers, scholars, gurus, reflecting on what is it about? What is authenticity? How do you transmit this tradition? Because it's not only a question of those coming from outside the country, but also those who come from urban centers who are taking up the arts. And I'm very happy that Amitabh Kant is here because we know each other from his Kerala days. And at that time, I was dancing quite often in Kerala. And I have, being from outside the tradition, I have never had any sense of entitlement. And so when someone considers me an artist, I am extremely grateful. And Amitabh has always had so much love and respect for the arts and its importance, and his consideration and belief in me is something that has really been very important as part of my life over 4.5 decades. So I'm so happy that you've agreed to launch this.
What I've decided, and I've taken that executive decision as the moderator, that we are not now going to have a break in the conversation, since Amitabh Kant ji has very kindly agreed in his busy schedule that he has time to stay back, and we will finish the discussion and the conversations which we started. Before I ask Amitabh if he has any questions to ask, I want Sharon to tell us one particular incident. She's had 3 great gurus. One was Singhjit Singh, the other was Kelucharan Mahapatra, and her Krishna Chand Nayak. So she has had these 3 grand masters with whom she has trained. One, I wanted to ask her, what is that unforgettable moment in her life which changed her way of looking at Indian dance as a practice? Because if I remember correctly, Sharon started as a ballet dancer in America, and one of her best friends told her, "You'll never be able to be an Indian dancer." And then it was the same friend who said, "No, I take my words back." So I wanted to ask Sharon, which was that unforgettable moment? She must have had many, but that which changed her life.
Actually, it was the head of my the dance department when I did my master's. She said, "I'll never meet a modern dancer," because everyone in my class went on to the Graham Company, to Nikolai Cunningham, and she said, "You know, you don't seem to have that drive, that push." But then the next year she said, "You know, you have a gentler way and a passion without that push." And she said, "I think you'll do it." There were also, of course, the people in South Asian studies that said, "Sharon, you're wasting your time staying in India because you'll never be accepted." And then years later they said, "You made the right decision. You would be bored to death back in America." And I agree 100%. As far as a moment, there are many people who will say, "Oh, I saw X and that inspired me." To me, it's like a tapestry that from early childhood I saw things from all over the world. Dance, music, theater, puppetry. Uday Shankar. I remember seeing Indonesian dancers that do such sophisticated dance they won't do when they're past puberty. Then I was like, "Acha, you don't have to wait for sophisticated things till you're older." So I had the opportunity to realize that there was more than one way to look at everything, aesthetics. I loved everything. When I was 13, I decided not to be a dancer because it's too limiting. Dancers have to work all the time. There's no time for all these wonderful things. Going to the theater, doing puppetry. When I came to India, Jim Henson said, "If you don't go, join the Muppets." But I finally got here. So it's more like a tapestry of things that were fascinating, and gradually you have to drop out threads from that tapestry, and you're left holding a few. So I came because I had done Manipuri in college. I thought that's a cultural entree. When I started doing Odissi, I did it academically just to have a little insight into the form. But Guru Kelucharan Mahapatra, he said I learned faster than anyone he taught. He said, he taught me 3 dances in 2 months. He said, "Don't tell people when you perform what little time you've learned. They won't understand. You have to make a costume." He was a great guru. He was generous. And because of him, that's why I'm doing Odissi. And also because the most amazing thing, everyone knows that foreigners work hard and will do the skill and the acrobatics, but Abhinaya turned out to be my forte.
That's exceptional, because Abhinay is something where you have to really understand the Sahitya. And the Sahitya, because dance is actually in our tradition, particularly classical dance, is an offering to not just the Guru but also to the divine. It's all about bhakti. So it must have been quite a journey for you for a person who's a non-Hindu to get into the Hindu traditions, understand the process of bhakti, and then do the Abhinay.
In 1974, I danced in a temple, Sri Sri Govindaji in Manipur. And after doing a ritual dance, Bangi Puringa Choba, in Manipur, when you bow before the deity, you don't bow in front of them. That would be rude. You'd block their view. You bow to the side. As I bowed down, I seriously thought I might be struck by lightning. Because I'm Jewish, you're not supposed to bow. Well, guess what? I didn't get struck by lightning. So I figured, okay, the idea of the universality, the non-duality, the any name, whatever divine there is understands. And so I have always believed that just like with all of the novels that you read, that wonderful thing, you're either looking in a mirror or you're looking through a window. I love that. And we all have an inner reality that's shared. And so using these forms, the depth, because the Indian dance forms come from a spiritual consciousness, and that's universal. So there wasn't any trouble moving through that.
So Sharon actually began the seminars in the 90s with the Videshi Kalakar seminars, and I think she did 6 of them over a period of time. And what she has brought in the book is the thought processes of some of the scholars and performers, which you will see featured in the book. One of them called John Higgins, who was even given the title of being a Bhagavatar, which is a big, big title to be given to a foreigner. And what is interesting is that Sharon has broken this whole thing between a Videshi Kalakar and has started some years ago a wonderful festival called Manodharma. So would you like to tell a little bit about the journey between Videshi Kalakar to Manodharma, and what is for you the meaning of this beautiful Indic wisdom term called Manodharma?
Yes. After 6 years, I thought it was enough. The idea was to give a platform. Artists could get reviews. They could perform in India. Their gurus would realize that their students are going to perform and be seen. They had live music. But not to repeat. It wasn't to be a ghetto. It's like you've done it. And years later, Vinod Mehta told one foreigner who said you should write an article about me. He said, no, Sharon, change that. It's not a big deal. Today, foreigners are on equal footing, struggling, trying to get programs, but recognized as being artists. Now, I have my NGO, Manasa, Art Without Frontiers. And when I did this, looking back to move forward, we took up these same subjects. And then after that, I did a festival called Manodharma. Today, as you all know, you see a lot of group dance. And it's wonderful that students who aren't able to hold the stage for a whole evening have an opportunity to perform. But the greatness of the art in evoking rasa is something that an individual can do. And we have traditions where you take an idea or one line and you keep developing it, Manodharma. And so I invited, of course, being in Delhi, Pandit Birju Maharaj is the greatest exponent of Manodharma, and Lakshmi Vishwanathan came, and then we had seminars. So you see, we have, there are many beautiful dance and music forms in the world. Great rhythm, great melodies, great everything. But it is unique in Indian dance that you evoke the ras, in the way that, because the dancer is also an actor. And so your aim is to give a transformational experience to the audience. You may be entertaining, you want to entertain, but you want to do more than that.
Thank you for that. And what I'm delighted is that our chief guest, is who normally comes and just launches the book and goes away and says a few things, is very eager to ask a few questions. So that, I think, is going to be wonderful. And I'm going to give him 5 minutes, and then I'm going to open it to the house for the next 5 minutes, if you'd like to ask any questions before we launch the book.
So Sharon, I've had this great pleasure of inviting you to perform in several of our dance festivals in Kerala, which are truly unique in many, many ways. And you've been a great representative of Kerala's brand entity of as God's own country. Now you've been a dancer, you've been a guru, you've been a performer, you've been a nurturer, you've been an academician. And what, according to you, are the great nuances of guru-shishya relationship, since you've had 3 great gurus with you?
Well, we all use the word guru, and we misuse it. So first of all, a guru is a teacher, but not just a teacher. They're a master teacher, but they're more than a master teacher. They are someone who mentors you, who cares for you, who is inclusive in your entire life and development and attitude, not only to your art, because your life is half your riyaz. And so they're helping you and guiding you in the life that adds to you as an artist. And so they're a mentor. It's a very maternal, paternal relationship also as that mentor. When one of my foreign students, who's a tenured professor of dance in Kansas, and he came, I said, Patrick, you don't have to touch my feet, don't do that. He said, you said that when the shishya touches your feet, you have a responsibility for them, and you have to take care of them. He said, I'm touching your feet. So that's my answer.
So Sharon, this book is truly fascinating. I mean, it has some great visuals, and it has some really, really fascinating visuals which bring across some great nostalgic memories for you. You know, I mean, it has this great visual of 1990 when at the Lalit Kala Academy, when you had the first festival of non-Indian artists, and there's a great photograph of Ravi Shankar, 1965, of the Asiatic tour. So, you know, in your long innings that you've had in India, what are your three of your most remarkable memories as a great performing artist?
One was performing at the New York City Museum with my guru. It was the conclusion of my tour in Festival of India that I had organized, but that ICCR gave for the travel for the musicians. And throughout that tour, I had been dancing, and my guru was accompanying. And I said, Guruji, you know, we really can't leave without you performing. So he danced there, and so then we did a concluding item together. That was brilliant. Another memorable performance, anyway. On the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the University of Chicago's South Asia Institute, there was a program in honor of Ed Dimick. And so 3 American Institute of Indian Studies fellows danced. And sometimes when you dance, with others, it's even better. Because one danced, you could very correctly and very perfectly for a foreigner, but kind of like not very inspiring. And the other danced with a lot of passion, but it was just all over the place. And then I came out and sat on the floor and did Kuru Yadanand. And Ellen Nazareth was there, who had become counsel after leaving ICCR, and he had tears in his eyes. And that was very memorable. My goodness, there's so many memories. You know, doing Yahi Madhava and my daughter saying, Mommy, that's the sad dance.
Thank you. We have time for a question. We'll try to finish it. फिर ये and then finish. इनको और उसके बाद ये.
Hi, my question is to Ms. Sharon. So I think there was some time in the middle in the conversation where Alka ma'am spoke about how you did ballet, and then someone commented that you could never be an Indian classical dancer after that. So could you comment on your journey from like ballet to Indian classical dance and how?
So answer quickly. actually started with modern dance before ballet because the ballet teacher scared me. He had a big stick. Then I took them both side by side. And when I was at University of Michigan, I got permission from the Board of Governors to make my own degree, which was Humanities, Fine Arts, and Asian Studies, because they didn't have enough Asia in the performing arts. So I could take ethnomusicology and School of Music and Arts of Asia in art, and then all of the history and basically whatever I wanted. And then I did my master's in dance. So that was in modern dance. And I also taught ballet at university before I came over to India. And obviously, it would have been insane to come over to be an Indian dancer. I just thought that continuing my Manipuri would inform what I did. But it's like I got hooked. I mean, I thought, if I stay a little longer, I'll have... I'm coming from America. If I went back after a year, I'd be doing a 5-minute piece between the Bhangra and the bride's pageant for the India associations. I thought, let me get a little better than that.
Thank you. I'm sorry you can't ask a question. I've been given, the police people at the back are, because we have to stick to time.
Yeah.
But you can talk to Sharon outside. I'd now request Amitabh Kant to please launch the book and make it public for all of you to buy from the bookshop. Thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you very much, Amitabh.
Please do buy this book and get it signed from her. It's just a phenomenal book, and you'd love it.
And I'll give him another one. My publishers promised to bring out a soft cover before too long. Check Amazon, as well as bookstores, which we want to support. Thank you.
We wish to thank Amitabh Kant ji, Sharon Lowen, and Alka Pande for this very